Francis Bacon is regarded as the first great stylist in the history of English prose. Before Bacon, English prose was marked by long sentences, obscure sentences which were very difficult to understand for a reader. And such a style that was used was elevated and could express only lofty themes. But it could not suit the expression of familiar ideas or commonplace subjects. The older style was very difficult to understand. We can say in brief, it could rise but it could not easily sink. Now, in his essays, Francis Bacon for the first time he set the model of a simple and clear style which was flexible, which was very simple to understand, and we can say that which was just like a commonplace theme. And this is why that he has been regarded as the father of modern English prose. The most remarkable quality of Bacon's style is its brevity of expression, aphoristic style. Bacon agrees that what William Shakespeare said, that brevity is the soul of wit. So Bacon possesses a unique gift of expressing his thoughts in minimum possible words or into the fewest words, whatever he says. So Bacon is very serious and he is very weighty with thought. There is hardly any other writer who can be compared with Francis Bacon for his charming, for his style. So Bacon's style is aphoristic style, it is objective style, and he uses epigrammatic expression. Many of its sentences can also be expanded into full paragraphs. Bacon can be said that he is one of the most quotable of English writers. Each and every sentence of his essays used just like a quotation, just like a proverb, just like an idiom, and no doubt that many of its sentences have become popular household proverbs. Crafty men condemn studies, simple men admire them, and wise men use them. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. And another example of his essay of his studies, reading make the full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So all these are the examples which are used just like a proverb. So today in brief we are going to know the prose style of Francis Bacon, because he had been a great scholar, and in brief we have to know that what kind of prose style Francis Bacon used and he is known for, because in his essays he tells us both the merits and demerits, disadvantages and advantages. So all these are the main points of his prose style. The very first is dignity of tone. The first element of Francis Bacon's style is dignity of tone. Dignity of tone, he writes on his subject in a very calm manner, in a very serious manner. Means in a serious manner he writes, and he uses elegant tone. His discussion is very superb, and he starts his essay in a forceful way. In an elegant manner he starts his essay. So the very first element is there is a dignity of tone in his style, because he writes in a serious manner, or he expresses himself in a calm manner or in a very serious manner. Number second, the second quality of his style is brevity. Brevity, as William Shakespeare also regard, brevity, that is shortness, we can say shortness, to express himself in precise, shortness of fewest words. Francis Bacon preferred to share or preferred to express his theme into the minimum words whatever he had, he said in shortness. So there is a brevity in his essays, means he expresses his thoughts into minimum verse. So this is the reason that his sentences are very short, and even if he writes in a long sentence or he uses a long sentence, he always divides them into short sentence or into short clauses, taking the help of punctuation. Another element another quality is clarity of thought. Clarity of thought, because his style, that is that there is a clarity in his thoughts, so there is also clarity in his style. His idea is very lucid. His sentences are very easy to understand, and he also makes his ideas very clear, taking the help of examples, taking the help of illustrations. So we find a lot of simplicity in his expression, and that seems to be very natural. So Francis Bacon, he is very clear in his thought, and that is why that we get easily whatever he wants to tell us or instruct us. The next one is lucidity. Lucidity, another element, another quality of his style. There is a flexibility, there is an objectivity, and he is very rich in wit. No doubt that we always find he was very witty, and we find a lot of wisdom in his essays, because he always remained very objective, very flexible, and lucidity, flexibility, objectivity, rich in wit, all are the qualities of Francis Bacon's style. Whatever he writes, when he starts his essay, he starts with forceness, that is emphatically he starts his essay. For example, of studies serve for delight, for ornament, and for ability. So in this way, with forceness he starts his essay. Emphatically he begins his essays. So forceness is also another quality. Now figure of speech. Francis Bacon, we can say that he was a master of figure of speech, and his favorite figure of speech were metaphor and simile. A metaphor and simile, they are very striking, they are very charming, and they always cast an indelible impression on the readers. So figure of speech, he also uses antithesis, metaphor, epigram, simile. So he is also a master of figure of speech. Another quality is variety of theme. No doubt there are a lot of variety. We find theme variation. There is no subject, there is no theme which is not used by Francis Bacon in his essays. So there is a lot of variety of theme in his essays. There is lofty subject, okay, lofty subject, for example, love, death, revenge, honesty, truth, study, marriage, even married life, single life, simulation, dissimulation, travel. So he uses all kinds of theme in his essays, taking the lofty subject, high subject. Now next quality of his style is philosophy. That is philosophy. No doubt he was a philosopher. He was also a moralist. So we find the same quality in his essays: philosophy, morality, practicalness, because he himself believed in practicalness and he was a practical writer. Seriousness, he was very serious, and the same qualities we find in his essays: seriousness, practicalness, objectivity, morality, and philosophy. Now his essays are full of worldly wisdom, and there is a common sense. Whatever he says, we find a reason, we find an argument in that. And his essays are full of worldly advices or worldly preaches, because they are full of practical advices, so they have worldly wisdom. Next one is, of course, no doubt that he used aphorism, aphoristic style, epigrammatic, forcefulness of expression. All these qualities are also found in the prose style of Francis Bacon. His essays are, what kind of his essays are? They are social, they are moral, they are also political, ethical, even domestic, religious, philosophical, straightforward. Okay, all kinds of essays he has written. Now the language of Francis Bacon's essays is very simple to understand. It is very clear, it is brief, and it is very serious in tone. When we say that Francis Bacon's style is simple, his language is simple, we say this it is simple in the sense that it is free from all affectation. He does not use decorative kind of language, or he doesn't use it just like as an ornament. There is no show off. It doesn't mean that his style is plain or his language is homely language. When we say that his style or his language is simple, that's mean that there is nothing superfluous in his sentences. There is no obscurity. He uses short sentence, direct and pointed sentences in his essays, and his language is always very lucid, very clear. So Bacon presents a sharp contrast to the elevated, ornate and obscure language of his contemporaries. So making a comparison of his contemporaries, we can say that his language is very simple. Now, no doubt there is because there is no obscurity, so there is a universal appeal. If we go through most of his essays, we shall find that there is a universal appeal, whether it is the essay of studies, of travel, or of married and single life, of even of studies of truth, we always find there is a universal appeal, and there is no difficulty to understand his theme, his concept, because there is no obscurity. Means we needn't take the help of any kind of background, any kind of notes. Easily within few lines we can understand very well that what appeal he wants to do with his readers. So another most important style, most important quality of his style is there is a lack of humor. We don't find even a single line of humor in his essays, and there is a lack of even feelings, emotion, because he has been a very formal writer, a very impersonal writer, objective writer, very practical writer, and that's why that there we don't find feelings, sentiments or emotions in his essays. No, not even pathos, sorrow. No, all these kinds of feelings are completely erased or removed from his essays. And not even the imagination, because he has been very practical and he has been a man of action. So whatever he wrote, he preached, that is very realistic. So there is no imagination, no fancy, no, because there is no emotion, no pathos, no humor. So we can say that we don't find his heart. Whatever he says from his mind. The preaching or the instructions, the teachings come out of his mind and not of his heart. And there is no personal touch. So there is a lack of humor, lack of emotion, lack of pathos, lack of imagination, lack of fancy, lack of even personal touch or lack of heart. And the last one can be added, that Latinism. because he was a man of scholar, and this kind of language, Latin language, was very popular in his time, and he also used it in his essays. But use of this language, Latin language, he uses a lot of words sometimes, and this using these words of Latin language, it makes his sentence somewhat difficult to understand that what he wants to say for those readers who doesn't have the knowledge of this language. So in his essays there is Latinism, and we find his love for this language. So no doubt that Francis Bacon, he was the father of modern English prose, and all these are important qualities of his prose style.